So, with this story of yours, this goes back a few generations, doesn't it?
Kind of, yeah. It kind of more like
You mentioned your Uncle David.
yeah,
Do you
it's
remember the start when it
yeah, I'll tell you
started?
basically what it was. It's probably years, this is years ago, but when I was like in my 20s. I'm what, 50, can't even remember how old I am now, 50 plus something. Um, when I was a lot younger, so if you got really ill, and everyone gets ill when they're kids, like really ill, it's probably because you've never been that ill before, because it's the only thing you know you've got ill is. When you get older, you get really ill.
Yeah.
But when you're a kid, when you've got, I don't know, like chicken pox or something like that, it's pretty grim. Or you have a really bad headache or things like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
regardless of that, I remember having like, I think it was like a fevery kind of thing. I don't know what I had. I don't know, it might have been flu for all I know. But I
Yeah.
just remember waking up in the middle of the night, you know, um, probably, I don't know, I didn't even know what the time was. Probably, thinking about it now, it probably was like two or three
Past
in the,
midnight?
probably, yeah. But when you're a little kid, I don't know, about 9 or 8, if someone said to you at 4 in the morning, that's
You
like,
would know.
you wouldn't know. And you probably, I don't, it's not like now. We didn't have a clock in our room. Um, didn't have an iPhone because we didn't have iPhones back
Do you
then.
remember it was
It was a
you woke
middle,
it was
it was the
pitch
mid,
black
it was
outside?
pitch black and it was
Yeah.
dead. It was just everybody else was in bed. That was
Hmm.
always a sign that you knew that it was late because the adults had gone to bed.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you wouldn't want to go for a wee because it felt a bit too scary to do that. You stay in bed as long as you could. Anyway, so the recurring dream is that I had that only happened when I was really ill is that there'd be figures at the end of the bed. Now, it happened a few times, and on one occasion, I thought I kind of, well, whether I've kind of imagined this over a period of time and remembering it, but I distinctly remember them having flat caps and that they had,
Mm.
rolled up shirts and braces.
Sort of old,
So they look like old, kind of
old-fashioned clothing.
old-fashioned kind of
What sort
clothing.
of what sort of decade do you think it
I
would
don't
be?
know, kind of
Early 20th century?
archetypal kind of 20 thing. It's almost like that thing that's been on telly lately. You know that where they got the hats, what are they called?
Peaky
Peaky
Blinders.
Blinders, that kind of look about them.
Yeah. Oh, really?
So this is why, well, and whether that's my subconscious bias thinking about that, but the reason is because when I went to family events and wedding years ago, towards the end later, this is like this happened when I was a kid, and then in my 20s it happened again, and then we went to a family wedding, and I met up with one of my uncles. He was at the wedding. This is later on in the night. Everyone's had a few drinks, and you end up talking about rubbish like you do, and this is one of the things that
Mm.
came up. And I mentioned about this dream thing, and he said, "Oh, I've had exactly the same thing happen to me." I was like, "What?" And then he started
Wow.
describing three figures at the end of the bed. And the one thing I have missed out was the weirdest thing about it was three figures at the end of the bed, yeah, or figures at the end of the bed, but it was distinctly three figures at the end of the bed
Mm.
and in descending height. That was the weird thing. And there's always
Did they look similar
I don't know because you
in
can't really make the
terms of
fact they can't really make
you
because
can
they're like they're silhouetted. It's like
oh, I see.
so you can just make
You
out
couldn't
they
make out
you
facial
could
features?
no you can't you can't see who they are. But the other weird thing about it was is I'm one of three brothers and we're descending heights. So I always think that's a bit weird that
Hmm.
I don't know.
That is interesting.
Is it our future ghost selves looking at us? I don't know.
Yeah. It's strange. Yeah.
So that's a bit weird. But the coincidence with whether that's or whether it was just my uncle because he's had a few beers saying the same thing.
Hmm.
That was a bit odd. But then there were other things that happened as well that was a bit weird as well. So I don't know, to sort of best way to sort of start this really because it's not. I'm thinking I don't know.
So we're talking about now your other relatives that experienced a similar thing now?
Yeah, the other relatives have experienced the same thing.
There's your Uncle David.
Uncle David, I think my Uncle Malcolm, he's now, ironically, there's only one, but these are my mum's brothers because obviously they're my uncles, but there's only one of them alive now, and that's Uncle David. He's the only one alive. But I know two of the other uncles experienced the same thing, similar kind
They've
of experience of the
really
three brothers at the end of the bed. This is the bit.
that's
It's weird. I say three brothers because I think of me because I'm one of three brothers, but there's five of them, so it's not like they're having five brothers at the end of bed.
yeah.
And I always think it's weird that my brothers and me were all descending height. And the irony is that I'm the oldest and I'm the shortest. So we kind of like, yeah. I got
So you got the little one on.
I'm the little one, yeah. I'm the halfling. But the other weird kind of thing is years ago I had a friend who lived in the middle of nowhere. I can't remember what the name of the village was, but it literally was in the middle of nowhere. And I had a Suzuki Jeep. This is in the sort of mid 90s.
Mm.
And I bought a Suzuki Jeep because it was the thing at the time, having big things like that, and it had
Okay.
kangaroo bars. And I had folk, it had a surf bar rack. God knows why, because I've never had a surfboard, but it had a surfboard
It
rack.
looked cool.
It looked good, yeah. But at the top of the surfboard, there were two fog lamps, massive ones. But then there were also another four on the front grille. And there was a switch inside the Suzuki van where you could switch them on. So
Safari style.
yeah, it was like it was like it would be brilliant on a normal night. It just light up the road, and you couldn't use it because you'd blind the other driver coming the opposite way. But there was one time I was driving back from this friend's house, and this is pre-sat nav, and I thought, oh, I've got to turn right here, and I'd gone completely the wrong way, and it was a narrow country road where it was literally just one car width. So if anything coming the other way, and I thought, oh, I'll keep driving because I'll come to a main road eventually. That was my thinking.
Yeah.
And then it was slightly foggy, and I thought, oh, I'll put my fog lamps on because I'm in the middle of nowhere. There's no one else around. So I'm like, I'll see if a car comes your way, I'll switch them off. But there was nothing. So I put my fog lamps on. And then in the sky, I thought it was a plane. You know, when you see a blinking plane,
Yeah.
I don't mean a blinking plane, like a plane with their lights blinking in the night.
Yeah.
Saw that out of sort of out of my peripheral vision. And then it came into my vision. And then I realized it was then almost like directly in front of me where I was on the road.
How far away would you say it was at that point?
I just thought it was a plane up in the sky. I don't know, a few miles away probably.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had my
Quite small.
I was I where I was driving, it was undulating countryside and it was quite steep. So my fog lamp lights were like going beams, and you got to make it was slightly foggy. It was quite cool. They look like giant lightsabers, shining up into the sky. So it was cool.
Yeah.
But and then I became aware that this thing it looked like it was coming down, and then it had these bright lights. It just like it had its own fog lamps came on, lit up the sky. And then I was getting towards like a hill, and I was going up the hill. And as I was going up the hill, this thing looked like it was sitting at the top of the hill, just above the road. And then I went under it, and then that's what I remember. Now, so then when I got home, so I was living with my parents at the time. I remember getting back home, and I realised I thought, hang on, that's taken me nearly 3 hours to get home, which was like an hour drive. So I'd lost sort of like the classic kind of UFO.
Missing time.
I had missing time, and I didn't. I was a bit freaked out. I even jokingly said to my parents, "I think we better phone the police," But I hadn't had anything put on my bottom or anything like that, so I was all right. Well, anyway, years later after that, my now wife, who was then a girlfriend, we went away to, and I don't know whether these are all connected, but it's just another weird sort of thing.
Mm.
And we were staying in Longleat, and again, actually, I just really realised it was a foggy night. Another foggy night. That was a bit of I just thought, literally just realised that now it's a foggy night. We're in the edge of Longleat at Centre Parks, which is like there's thousands of people there on holidays. You think, well, nothing's weird's gonna happen there.
It's a big place as well.
And it's a big place, yeah. We're right on the edge. It's like really wooded. I mean, you could kid yourself into thinking you're in the middle of nowhere, but you're not really. You're just on the edge of a wood next to a long lake where there's a lot of lines on the other side of a big fence. So in the middle of the night, we were in our so yeah, I got to tell you the setup because we went there we were in one of those big villas, like a ground floor bungalow is what they are basically. So there's me and my girlfriend and our wife in one room, and we were put in the kiddies' room, so it's two separate little beds, which you couldn't even push together because they were fixed to the floor. So it was you had to sort of, they were like tiny things. They're like much, if you rolled sideways, you'd fall off the edge either way, and they weren't up against the wall. So you kind of like lay in bed and you just thought, well, I'll lie on my back then because there's no other position to lie in. oh, I lie on my front and face into my pillow, which isn't exactly comfortable or good for breathing. So then so yeah. And in the other two rooms, there was my brother-in-law and his then wife. And then the other room, there was, which is now my mother and father-in-law, but they were my then girlfriend's mum
So
and dad.
you were all
We're all in the same
the
villa,
same.
because it has an open plan kitchen and a front room. They're quite tiny. I mean, they're holiday homes. That's what they're for. But it's the middle of the night, and I said to and for whatever reason, I was absolutely bricking myself, absolutely scared crap. And the weird thing about it as well is it was quite a mild night. So we had the curtains slightly open, and they got those kind of fire windows that you can't open only like a couple of inches.
Yeah.
So you kind of open those. Oh, that's as far as it goes. So, open the window, let some air in. And these curtains were billowing, and these were curtains that
Quite a
don't.
warm night.
Yeah, these curtains don't go to the floor. They just hang where the window is and stops.
Yeah.
So they're like waist height. And these curtains were billowing forwards and backwards. And for whatever reason, I kept thinking someone's sticking their arm in and pushing the curtain and putting their arm back out. Someone's on the outside. I just get all these freaky thoughts. And then I kept thinking someone's just the other side of the window and up the other side of our window, I knew it was just the wood, the forest. Anyway, I was so freaked out. I woke my girlfriend up and I said, "Can we switch the light on? Because I'm really scared of the dark." I was literally scared of the dark. I said, can we leave the light on?" And it was like, "Oh God, you want to leave the light on?" I said, "Yeah, I do. I'm really scared. And can I get in the same bed with you, please?" Which was like almost an impossibility because this tiny little bed. So I couldn't sleep, girlfriend couldn't sleep, and she was like really annoyed with me. And then I felt like something's going to happen. And I said, something's going to happen now. And as literally, as I said, finished saying this word now, all of the fire alarms in this place, Center Park's little house we're in, all of the fire alarms go off. And everybody's woken up. And we're all thinking, is there a fire? And there was nothing wrong.
That is freaky.
So that was weird. And I felt like, I only wish that would happen to me with a lottery ticket, and then it'd be all right, wouldn't it? But that was, yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's my freaky story. There you go.
Yeah.
Whether they're connected, but yeah, when you watch the conspiratorial things online or alien things, I also think, oh, I wonder if is it the same? Is it all connected? Are those three people at the end of the bed not?
Well,
Are the aliens? And then I was abducted, and the aliens were then, I don't know, maybe I've got some implant in me, I don't know where it is.
yeah.
And then later on, they checked me out at Longleat to make sure or maybe they were actually taking it back out back then. They thought, we'll have it back now.
We'll have that
Yeah, we'll have it. But they couldn't get home because they needed it for a deposit. I don't know. They lost the ring.
I mean, hearing that does, I can hear a thread being weaved throughout the whole story, going back to your uncles.
Yeah, but that's kind of, it's natural to do that because you want to see connections. But yeah, but then I know my mum, bless her, she's not, her mind, she's got early signs of dementia, so she not really can remember stuff. But I remember when I was in her 20s, she used to talk about some of the freaky stuff that used to happen in the house where she lived.
Really?
It was weird as well. Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Well, she used to have feeling like there was someone sat on the bed and sat on her legs. When you're in,
is this while she was asleep, she'd wake up, or
I don't know the way she described it, but she would
awake?
describe it that because they were living in they had a place called Seymour Villas right in the middle of London, South London. I can't remember the area now. I've got it written down somewhere. But she described weird things happening in the house they lived. And they lived in a basement. They lived in a big Victorian building, multi-story building, and they were in effectively the basement. They had the basement rooms, which I guess probably would have been the servants' quarters at one point.
So it's a really old building.
It's a really old building, Victorian building. Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. It was all got knocked down.
It had servants originally.
Yeah, it's all gone. It's all gone now. I remember going back to London years ago with my parents. This is before. It was just me and my brother, and I mentioned the third brother. He wasn't born yet. I remember going to London to visit granddad's, and parents would go that way and say, "Oh, we'll show you where Mum used to live," and it's like, they've knocked it down. It's not there anymore. And now there's a new flat. It's all,
Yeah.
you know, it's a little different. But yeah, she did talk about weird things happening in that place, like literally a pair of shoes walking across the room. Well, I thought, well, that's seriously weird.
Right, that sounds a bit like
Poltergeist
that
kind of type
sound,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
it sounds
yeah.
unrelated to
But I don't know.
the other stuff.
But yeah, but I'm sure other
But
people have got the
equally
same.
is completely out there,
Yeah, but
which
I'm sure
I'm
other people have
intrigued
got.
by.
Yeah, but I'm sure other people have got the same kind of. When something weird happens, you kind of think, oh, is that connected with that? Is
To
it?
be a witness to poltergeist activity, that is extraordinary, isn't it? So thanks very much, Dave. That was really interesting. It's creeped me out a little bit. So not sure whether I'm going to sleep well
Well,
tonight.
you plied me
Thinking
with
about
wine,
that.
so I got talking, so it's good.
Oh yeah. All my guests have a nice Rioja to go. Brilliant. Okay, thanks very much, Dave. That's fantastic, and thanks very much for taking part in this little chat.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thanks, Pete.